What is up, guys? Vixis here, and I am going to be making a quick Season 35 tier list for Overwatch. There hasn't been a lot of coverage of the base game of Overwatch, being that Overwatch 2 is now getting really close to being released, and the beta is now out. But I'm going to make a quick little update on Season 35. Not a lot has changed, but I figured I'd throw this out there for you guys. This is for solo queue. Ranked across the board. It's going to be a little more general, a little bit faster than my usual ones, because I don't think there's been a lot of changes. Starting in the D tier, I'm actually not going to put anybody in the D tier this time. Normally, I'd put a couple characters in there that I don't believe you should play, but I've been discussing it with some people in the comments section, and I see a lot of points about why no character truly is that bad when it comes to climbing in solo queue. So we're actually going to start off with the C tier. Now, I'm going to put Reinhardt in the C tier. I think Reinhardt is absolutely the most bare minimum pick you can make in ranked right now to help yourself. Now, if you're playing in a coordinated team, Reinhardt could be pretty decent, but solo queue, we're going to put him in C. Bastion, also in the C tier. I think there are better picks out there right now than Bastion for solo queuing. Don't see him being as impactful as some others. Zarya, also a C tier pick. If you're playing with a duo and you're going to do run Ryan Zarya, which you won't be running for much longer because of Overwatch 2, she could be a pretty good pick, but other than that, I don't see her being great if you're playing solo without coordination. Also, C tier, we're going to put Junkrat. I don't think Junk's a bad pick. I think certain maps he could be an A tier pick. It's just that in a lot of situations, you'll be better off with somebody else, and I think that's a fair way of putting it. C tier also, we're going to run with Doomfist. I don't think Doomfist is bad, but definitely not as much value unless you're a Doomfist master. This is why I didn't put anybody in D tier. If you're a master of a character, you could basically play anybody in ranked and climb with them. I just think there are easier things to pull off to get the same amount of value you're going to get out of a Doomfist pick. And the last C tier pick is going to be Genji. Genji's another one. Obviously, if you're a master Genji, you're going to play him anyway. You're going to be able to get value, but I just don't think he's the greatest pick for ranked at the current moment. There's just other characters that could do the same job as him, but a little bit better and a lot easier to execute. Starting off the B tier, we're going to go with Lucio. I think Lucio's a solid pick. There's a lot of stuff you could do with Lucio. He's a little bit weaker compared to some of the people higher up on the list. It's really the only reason he gets placed where he gets placed. But I could see him being extremely versatile, and if you are really good at the character. And once again, you could basically climb with anybody right now. But there are obviously there are better options and worse options. B tier as well. I'm going to go Mei. Mei is, again, not bad. There are just better picks. That's really what it comes down to here. We're going to go with Reaper as well for the B tier. Reaper is a weird pick. In certain situations, like you're playing against a Winston that's causing you a lot of problems, certain maps, or if you're playing in a game where you notice people are not punishing you, he is going to be really good. Especially if you are in bronze, silver, or gold tier, I would say Reaper is a lot better than the higher elo because people will punish Reaper a lot more once you start getting into the real higher ranks, I guess you would call them, of Diamond Master, etc. But if you're in bronze, silver, and gold, please do try out Reaper. I think he will be a great pick for you in the long run. Sombra, also B tier. I used to put Sombra a little bit lower than I have this time. And that is really just because I've kind of trying not to focus as much on the communication side of things. Yes, it is very much true that Sombra will be hindered if you cannot communicate with your team. But if you're in chat and you can communicate who you're hacking and what you're going to do, at the very least, that should be enough for you to get a basic amount of value out of her. There are better picks, but she's definitely not a bad pick by any means. B tier as well. There's Hanzo. We're going to put Hanzo in B tier. Normally I put Hanzo in A or B, but I'm going to stick with B this time. I think Hanzo is a solid pick. You're not really going to go wrong with Hanzo, but there are just a few DPS that I think are a lot more consistent than he is, and you're going to get a lot easier value. Pharah, also going to go in the B tier. I love Pharah. Love picking Pharah. Once again, in bronze, silver, or gold, she is very easy to get a lot of value out of. People aren't going to punish you as hard, but playing her in, let's say, Plat and above, if you're running against like a Soldier McCree combo, it's going to be a little bit harder to get that value. Now, if you are dual queuing with a Pocket, I will move her up to the A tier. I think she's actually extremely good and way more consistent if you can have somebody consistently pocketing you to the point where you're getting value and you're not hindering your team. So I'm going to put her in the B tier. If you have a Pocket, I would say you could go with an A for her. Winston's also going to go on the B tier. Winston is a solid pick in a lot of situations. Definitely not the best, but definitely not the worst by any means. You could definitely win with Winston. Widowmaker, also going to go on the B tier. Also keep in mind, guys, for me, B tier is maybe a little bit better than it is for most people. B tier means these are just good. The characters are good. There's nothing wrong with playing them. You're going to do just fine with them. But there's nothing particularly special that's going to make them overpowered, I guess you would say. And Widow goes there for me. Good Widow's going to get a lot of picks. She's going to do a lot of things to get value for her team. But she's definitely, again, not the most consistent pick. You're not going to be able to just lock her into every game and do the same thing. Map dependency is pretty big for Widowmaker, so keep an eye on that. Mercy, B tier, pretty much the standard healer. You're going to be able to run her into a lot of different things. She's never really going to be a bad pick, but never are you going to really see a Mercy be like, I guess, the most broken thing, unless, you know, unless you go back to the basic start of Overwatch again. As for the rest of the B tier, we're going to go with Symmetra. Now, Symmetra is a weird one. If you have mastered all of Symmetra strategies, which I guess if you're a Symmetra player, you probably have, then I could see her going in the A or the high B. Certain maps, she could actually be up to an S tier, I would say. But overall, I'm going to put her in the B. I think she's pretty solid. Definitely not a bad character, but definitely not would be my pick for the best. Going into the A tier now. This is where things start to get dicey because my opinions change on A and S all the time. A tier is these characters are really good. You're going to be able to consistently climb with them. Basically pick them every game. They're just not really as consistent as the ones above them. Torbjorn is one that I have been talked about for a while. A tier for Torbjorn is a bit surprising, but Torbjorn is very consistent. He's a counter to some of the best characters in the game. He's a big counter to Tracer and a few others. If you could play Torb well, he could be an absolute nuisance for people. For some reason, nobody ever wants to shoot the damn turret, so you could play Torbjorn to a pretty high level and then actually pop off with him, surprisingly. Zenyatta is going to be an A tier as well. Now, I hate getting Zens on my team because a lot of the time, if you're not running Zen into a good healer comp, he can be a bit problematic. However, if you're really good at Zen, he's one of the best characters to carry with in the game as far as healing goes. I think a lot of the people that put blame on Zen, which I understand, comes down to you're playing with a Zen that's not that great. If you're playing with one that really knows what he's doing and is communicating and is getting the value out of Discord, which is one of the most free value abilities in the game, you're going to have a great time with Zenyatta. Soldier 76 is also going to be an A tier. I think he is a pick you cannot go wrong with right now. He's a hit scan, self-sustainability, damage, relatively easy to play, fits into any composition, hard to counter. There's really nothing wrong with playing Soldier. There's just one character I think does his job slightly better than he does at the moment. That's going to allow him to be a bit lower. McCree, I'm going to stick in the A tier as well. I don't really find McCree to be as bad as some people are making him out to be right now. Unless you're playing again in an ELO where the absolute, minuscule amount of difference is needed, I think McCree is still an A tier pick. Flash Fan is still extremely strong, and he can actually cover up some of your skill weaknesses if you're able to utilize his flashbang in 1v1 situations, which is why I'm going to put him in A. I think a lot of low ELO players may get easier value out of him than some of the other ones, but that's debatable. I can see the argument for him going into B, but I think I could comfortably put him in the A tier. Orisa is also going to go in the A tier. I find Orisa to be extremely strong at the moment, and absolutely nothing wrong with Orisa by any means. She's a good pick into most compositions. People will appreciate the shield, and a good Orisa can actually provide a serious value to the team. Wrecking Ball, I'm also going to put in A tier. The ball nerfs that came a while back, I think people were a little bit gutted about it to begin with, but I don't think they've hurt him nearly as much as people thought it was going to. It's definitely noticeable, the grapple changes and all that, but I still think he's pretty good, and he's still a pretty strong pick. Hog is also going to go in A tier. Now, this is a message to Hog players. Switch if you need to, please. But overall, as far as carrying as a tank, you can't do too much better. The only reason he goes in the A tier is because of his consistency compared to a few others that we're going to put above him. But other than that, he's a really good pick right now. Moira is one you know what, I actually am going to put Moira on the high B tier. I debated on that one as well. Moira is a solid pick. She does a lot of damage, but I do find that there are a couple healers you're going to be able to get more value out of. Zenyatta inherently has more value. He's just a little bit harder to pull off, but if you know how to play that character, you're going to get more value out of Zen than you are on Moira at the current moment. Now, the S tier, we're going to do in a second. I'm going to put Anna in the A tier quickly, though. Anna's a good pick. If you're really good at Anna, I'd say she's A tier. You could definitely argue for B tier, but I could say A right at the moment. Now, the S tier, we're going to start out with Sigma, well-rounded. There's just a ton of value there. You can basically pick him into almost any comp, unless you're getting absolutely abused for some reason. Sigma is one of those characters that if you just master him, you could basically ride him to any rank. Diva as well, a great Diva player is a great value. Know when to switch, obviously, but if you know your role on Diva and you're flexible and you're good with the defense matrix, you're going to know what you're doing. You're going to get a lot of value out of Diva, and there's really nothing wrong with picking Diva at the moment. Tracer, S tier. Now, when I released my Overwatch 2 tier list, Tracer may not be the infinite S tier that I feel like she's been in Overwatch 1 up until this point, but a high-skill Tracer is absolutely deadly, infinite potential. Can't really argue too much about Tracer. She's always been a good pick. Seemingly will be for the time being. Ashe is going in the S tier. I find Ashe to be the highest value hit scan in the game right now. Soldier and McCree, good picks, but Ashe just seems to be a little bit better. Her ult is a lot more useful than theirs, in my opinion. A lot less easy to get that ult eaten. She has high damage output. If you are skilled with Ashe, you can absolutely shred people, with the grenade being a nice big AoE ability. I just find her to have a little bit more potential than those two do at the moment. Echo, another one that if you could play her to a high level, she's going to be an absolute monster. Now, I don't know how that's going to be for Overwatch 2 with those slight changes she's gotten, but we're not talking about that just yet. We're getting really close to it, but I'm going to keep Echo in the S tier. I think if you actually look at some high elo players, almost every one of them has Echo in their top 3. There's a reason for that. If you're good at Echo, you almost can't beat her as far as like ceiling, potential ceiling. S tier for the healers, we got Brigitte. I don't know if anybody's going to have a problem with that one. Brig's been very strong since she's come out into the game. Very easy to carry with, easy to get value out of, hard to punish. She's a counter to some of the strongest characters in the game. You shouldn't have much of a problem running Brig. And S tier, the final pick is going to be Baptiste. This one people shouldn't have too much of an issue with either. I think Bap is just one of the most well-rounded heroes in the game. Good healing, good damage output, immortality field's huge, window could be a fight changer. You just got a lot of things there to put him in the S tier. I don't think many people will argue with that one. It's one of the few I think nobody will have a problem with. Comment down below if you disagree with something. I'd like to hear your opinions. I've been changing these basically every patch because I've been getting some feedback, and I do appreciate the feedback. I'm totally open to suggestions on things. I'm still relatively new to the YouTube tier list thing and trying to be unbiased with the characters I like and such. So if you guys have some opinions, put them down below. I'm going to be releasing an Overwatch 2 tier list, way too early tier list soon. Until then, I think that's all I got. Just want to put this quick one out here for you guys, for anybody who's looking for a more updated one, I guess. Obviously, this is all just my opinion as well, so take it with a grain of salt. Until then, have a great day.